We have 2 microphones, and if you have a question, I see a hand back there. We'll get a microphone to you. There are a couple of questions back right, and a couple down here.
Okay, let's get a question from
Can you wave so I can see where you are?
Here, right here, Dr. Dawkins. Hi.
Okay.
So you mentioned that birds are perhaps the last descendant of dinosaurs, or one of them anyway. Now we know that, or we have plenty of evidence that birds have similarities to dinosaurs according to build in fossils or their bones. Is there a way that we can figure out the behavior, which is a much more complex concept, of how the dinosaurs live?
Can you hold the mic a bit further away from your mouth? I'm finding it hard.
Sorry,
I still haven't worked out where you are, by the way. Okay.
Sorry. So let me put it in a nutshell. Is it possible that we can figure out the behavior of dinosaurs for birds, since we have evidence that they are one of the last descendants of dinosaurs?
I've worked out why I couldn't hear, by the way. It's because I was behind the speakers. It's very clear when I walked to the front. Is it possible to work out the behavior of dinosaurs by looking at birds which are surviving dinosaurs? Well, it's difficult to say that because the way an animal behaves is so much a part of its own way of life, its own ecology, what it does. Different birds behave in different ways depending upon whether they are highly social birds like Californian acorn woodpeckers or solitary birds, whether they're water birds or land birds and so on. So we probably can't say a great deal about the behavior of dinosaurs. Birds are only distant cousins of the rest of the dinosaurs. Dinosaurs laid eggs, like birds do, so we can probably guess that the courtship behavior and the reproductive behavior of dinosaurs was certainly a lot more like birds than it was like mammals, and so they probably built nests, and they might well have had nest relief ceremonies when one partner relieved the other. But of course, there are some birds where only the female incubates the eggs, some birds where only the male incubates the eggs, some birds where both incubates the eggs. In some cases, they use a compost heap to incubate the eggs. And dinosaurs may well have done all those things. We have other cousins of dinosaurs surviving, like crocodiles, and we know how crocodiles do it. So there are lots and lots of ways in which we can guess how extinct animals behaved. But you probably would do better not to say, because birds are surviving dinosaurs, therefore dinosaurs behave like birds. It might be better to think, how do desert-dwelling birds behave? Probably desert-dwelling animals behave like that. How do seashore birds behave? Perhaps seashore-dwelling dinosaurs behaved in that way. We know a lot about how animals behave by looking comparatively at different animals living today, and we can probably infer back to think that the range of behaviors that dinosaurs showed were similar.
I'm just wondering, what's the percentage of Britain that's creationist? Is there an equivalent poll?
Yes, and the news is pretty bad. It's not quite as bad, and there are similar polls in Europe as well. I don't think any other country that's been polled scores quite as highly on the scale of young Earth creationism as the United States, except Turkey. Turkey seems to be the only advanced country that's been polled which has a higher percentage of people who believe that the world is only a few thousand years old. In Britain, the figure is lower. In Britain, I get the feeling that it may be not so much a hostility to the idea of evolution per se, but rather a general ignorance of science. For example, I have in my head the figure that I think it's 19% of the British people, as measured by polls, think it takes 1 month for the Earth to orbit the Sun. 28% of the British people think that humans live together with dinosaurs. They get their science from the Flintstones. So the news is pretty bad in not only Britain but most European countries as well. The Scandinavian countries come off best. They have the lowest percentage of ridiculous beliefs along these lines. But you're right to call attention, it's not only the United States.